तो हेलो एवरीवन, आज हम लोग चौथे एपिसोड में पहुंच गए हैं मुसाफिर ज़िंदगी के। एंड हमारे साथ हैं विनम्रा। आज वी आर रिकॉर्डिंग फ्रॉम द स्टूडियो बैंगलोर में।
Hey Deepak, I'm so glad to be here. Crazy setup. It's pretty good. Um,
या
yeah,
या
I'm excited for today's episode.
या वी आर ट्राइंग टू रिक्रूट अ वीडियो गाय टू एक्चुअली मेक द वीडियो वर्क। इट्स समथिंग दैट वी aren't capable of.
Yeah.
Okay, just to start things off, right? So, what are your thoughts on free will?
Free will. I think world's pretty like 80-90% probably like deterministic. Unfortunately, I think we all of us individually, if you think about it, give each other and give ourselves the hope of some light at the end of this deterministic tunnel, like the free will aspect
Yeah.
of it. But yeah, like things like organized religion, things like national narratives that are spread. I have you get what I mean. Like, I think like it's pretty clear like that you don't really have much of a choice. That uh, even economically, a lot of things are quite static. Social mobility isn't that much. Even if you like to believe it is, I'm sure everyone improves, but they will anyways improve, right? Because they need to.
This also has a biological aspect actually. So, from the time when you're born, when would you consider you have free will? Like, if you had,
Hmm.
it would start by at the time you were born, and you were born based on different chemical reactions in your mother's body,
Hmm.
and then whatever influences that you had in your life, whatever music that you followed, whatever things that you liked, they're all, you're consuming them somehow, and that's all getting
Yeah.
programmed in your neural sense.
But that's what you're getting like conditioned.
Yeah, you're
that
getting
way.
conditioned sort of.
Yeah.
So I don't personally believe there is free will,
Yeah.
but I
obviously
don't let that sort of hinder my everyday day-to-day things. So
obviously, I think like anyone will go into. I'm sorry to cut you off, but like anyone will go into like existential crisis if they think about like the fact that they are living in a deterministic world. If it obviously comes even in a trail of thought, I think it's quite destructive in its own way. I think people with like personal neurosis about it can really spiral, thinking about this all day long. So it's definitely not a feasible thing at all.
also I think as humans, right, as we've evolved from 10,000 years of or millions of years of evolution, we are somehow ingrained to get some challenges in life, right? And we have devised mechanisms to solve them somehow, and we think that because we have devised mechanisms to solve them, we have some sort of a free will. We have figured out ways to fight these reactions from the environment. So that's why we feel that we have free will, but essentially those were just shaped by these other people whose opinions got shaped by the environment. So it's not really free will. But yeah, that's, we don't let
Yeah,
that
even if you think about
But I think you're going towards spiritual freedom, because you're saying that from all the years we have been developing or progressing forward, anything and everything is inspired or conditioned by something that we receive
yes.
yeah.
today,
Yeah.
right? So it means that free will wasn't ever there.
Yeah, free will was never.
That's the
exactly,
point, that's
So
the
this
point.
is, so you basically, the spiritual freedom is free will.
I don't even think spiritual freedom is free will, right? So
It's all.
But
of
if you're a
free will.
baby and you don't know shit, you cannot do anything. You are not even conscious. So anything and everything will be influenced by your parents,
exactly,
people around
exactly,
you.
and they are influenced by their surroundings. So
So when
nothing
do you get free will? I think that's what.
yeah, that's the
Yeah.
question.
When do you actually get free will? I think death. Like that's
That-
the point.
Yeah,
Or
That is when you're truly
one
free.
Attains complete enlightenment.
but still, what do you
Freedom
mean by
from-
enlightenment, right?
Yeah.
It's again a propaganda. It's a Buddhist tradition that's being followed, that you have to attain enlightenment.
Not that. Buddhist कहाँ से आ गया?
Buddhist,
Anybody can follow the spiritual
no,
path.
it's a original notion by Buddhism कि enlightenment it exists, right?
So you're saying that even after they get enlightened, the things.
What do they
in
really
their-
get?
Wait, guys. Spirituality is to Buddhism was what Hindutva is to the. You know what I'm talking about?
Let's not get into that shit, please. This podcast is free from all hate. Yeah, so coming back, yeah, I think even enlightenment is a concept. It's something that people have heard of, and what does really one get when one reaches there? Is that part of free will, or is that again
I'm
some?
calling enlightenment, like comparing it to what Jesus had almost. The Jesus that is portrayed.
Okay, yeah, there can be exceptions
That
to this
was-
rule.
Huh.
There can be, because that's all mythology.
Jesus Christ is not part
Arey,
of
guys,
mythology.
guys, so I think.
He is right.
Nahi. He's
Arey,
just-
okay, let's circle back. So, I think. I don't know if I discussed this last time, but I discussed the concept of gods as kings.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think like briefing it up for our, I guess, audience out there, like this is a theory I was thinking about for a while. Uh, I think like to a large extent, gods are quite real in the way that they're human beings, that they're individuals just like you and me, except they were kings, really powerful back in the day.
Yeah.
And they had control over like large regions across the world, and they had a lot of control over how individual opinions, narratives were particularly shaped, right? So they could quite literally control your perspective on pretty much everything. So the concept of free will never existing in such a society was always determined by this
Correct.
higher power,
Higher ground.
to the point where this king was thought of as immortal. This king was thought of as something that's omnipotent,
And
omnipresent.
this is not something that's very old actually. So if you think
Yeah,
about
yeah.
Japan as a country, so just in the World War II, so
Yeah.
just 70 years ago, they still had that king and emperor,
yeah.
and everyone thought of him as a god. So it's
Exactly.
not something that's in the mythology that was there.
Yeah, I think Hinduism just got there first. I think in terms of creating this, but here's the kicker, right? The next generation after that knew that they were kings.
Yeah.
Knew that sure people thought of them as godlike because they had godlike powers to shape in society and actually effectuate change also in society. So if they wanted like women empowerment, they could have done it. If they
Yeah,
didn't
they
want
could
it,
have.
it's like they're in their autocratic control, all of it, right? But the next generation also knew the history of them as king, but also knew the history of this mythology that they have, sort of created around them, this
Yeah.
aura they've created around them. So I think what our forefathers also did was just remove that like reality part of it, remove the fact that they were kings, and just keep the part that they were godlike.
God, yeah.
And if you pray to them, if you go to this particular place and you spend some time there, pay some people there, like donate some money, do all those things, at some point you will get some gifts from this godlike creature. But like, yeah, it's something that's been shaped by our forefathers. And that's
Exactly.
what I think concept, that's where like Hinduism as a religion came up. We had so many kings, so many
Yeah.
queens, that's why. Yeah.
Somehow we managed to lift ordinary humans into godlike status through our sayings and writings and all of those things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's actually true because for instance, take Tupac. A lot of people hail him as God,
Yeah, that is just
and he
because
just
of
died
his
like
writing.
25 years
Yeah.
ago. So basically, things that stay even when you're not here can potentially turn you into some form of God.
Yeah, that's why I feel the field
So
of
it's the shit you leave behind, right?
yeah. So what
like
would
legacy,
you consider?
legacy wise, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, gods. I don't think most of us have some gods, right? So people also who claim they've seen gods are people who are very into their religion, and they converse with the church. The father is over there, or in Hindu the priests are over there. They converse with all of these people, and they usually share a delusion that they have seen God.
Yeah.
But no one has really seen God, right?
Yeah,
It's,
so
it's
I
all
think-
stories
I
that
think
are
okay,
being
so I
passed
think
down.
between the three of us, I think all of us are like pretty into spirituality probably, or
Yeah.
believe some type of
There is something above us.
something about, but it's not as organized. It's a very disorganized thought right now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, so-
misinterpreted.
Yeah.
highly.
yeah. I think that's with most things by mass media. But yeah, I think to a large extent, like that's the problem as well. But I think with respect to free will, the other concept I would talk about was that what if you give away your free will for happiness? What if you let someone else control your reality, but you were happy? Like they controlled the fact that you were happy. Also, yes, I know that's a slippery slope, but they also like you were also happy. You felt happy. You genuinely had emotions expressing and this emotion which is very of intense joy and happiness. Would you do that? Like, what do you think about that?
But then happiness becomes the new normal, right?
Yeah, no, but
Yeah,
they
then
will keep making you happy.
Yeah, but then at some point of time, right? So they are living in Earth, right? And at some point of time, if they forget how to be sad or how to be, reactive of the things, if they're always happy all the time, then when if some calamity actually happens, because Earth is unpredictable. You never know what shit goes down here.
Yeah.
So dinosaurs were walking around. They never expected, and they were vanished. So random shit happens.
No, so
here.
give me an example. Like, is it something
Let's
like
say-
it makes them sad, friends?
Let's say a natural calamity happens.
Yeah, so that area is protected in.
You
You're
can't
saying that-
you can't actually bend the laws of physics
Huh.
for people's
No
happiness.
Oh, actually, okay.
earthquakes, no
Okay.
storms.
So if it's natural calamities like what happened in today's world, which we can deal with to a certain extent, obviously we also have certain.
Yeah,
you know,
but I'm not talking about dealing with it financially. I'm talking about dealing with it emotionally. So
yeah, dealing with
Like
it.
they-
Oh yeah.
They
dude.
don't know how to handle catastrophe.
No. They do. So this is the thing. Even on, but so that obviously happens at that scale. But I also think about like more interpersonal reactions, right? So let's say if if I did something which hurt you, for example, here, you obviously would be like slightly taken aback. You'll slightly feel like, okay, like I'm a little offended by this or annoyed by this, whatever. That means your level is going down. So in that world, it's called something called level. And you can take a chemical, which like a pill or something, or a like easy droplet, something like that. Basically, which makes you happy, which improves your levels.
that's okay. So you are injecting a chemical that's making you
Yeah.
happy. That's
and
again.
and here's the thing. Here's the kicker, though. Here's the kicker. This chemical actually doesn't work directly. This chemical is socially conditioned for you to believe it's a chemical.
Yeah.
So it's just really nothing.
It's a placebo.
Yeah,
it's a shared
placebo.
delusion.
Yeah,
right?
it's a shared delusion, but everyone believes in that reality because everyone believes that it happens. Just like
Yeah.
like gravity,
Yeah.
we know it exists.
We are conditioned to accept gravity
Yeah.
exists.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But how will one grow in that society? If you don't know down, how will you know up?
Yeah, because if
No,
you're
you
always
only
happy.
know- no, everyone's happy,
How
everyone's
does
good.
no, okay? So how does artists create great work? How do scientists do fantastic
There's no.
work?
That's what. There's no. So scientists are there. Scientists are there to inject. What do you say? Which level of society there is. Also, this is a very fairly like classes society. So there are classes of individuals that you're born into, and that's randomly chosen. It's not chosen based on like your race or your gender or anything. It's randomly chosen. So it's very progressive, quote unquote, in that way, because arbitrarily, it's like a 50-50 chance pretty much, in that way. But also, scientists then their only work is to work on things like injecting them with the class, which random class they're in. So they are doing that work, which is a very mechanical.
Okay, so what you're talking about is a society that's not built by humans, right?
That's built
What I'm saying is, if tomorrow, if I'm very happy all the time, right? I don't think I'll be able to produce anything good. I don't think I'll be able to create these fantastic.
But I hate
societies
this.
that you're
But
talking
I hate this idea of tragedy being something or loss being something that we need to have to create something. And sure, it's great for good art. Like I also think it's not particularly like always best for good art. Obviously, some good art comes out of it. I'm not denying the fact. I'm just saying it's not a necessary precondition to
No,
good
so
art.
just look. I'm not just
This
talking
is
about.
as far as humans are able to see right now.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's all one. In a sense, everything is just there. It's not tragedy. It's not something.
It's always happy, no? Though
No. I'm saying
you have normal and happiness.
in
still, bro.
reality. I'm saying that you should take everything as it is.
Yeah.
That's
Haha.
what we aim for.
No. I'm not trying to support this world or this world is better. I'm just saying that this is how this world functions.
If tomorrow there are phases in life when you are very happy, right? That happens, and I've also had these phases different times, and at the end of it, I always feel I need something more. So that's a basic human.
Yeah, but that's a
innate
relative thing.
experience.
But that's what I'm saying. I think in their world, because it's so classist, obviously people will envy each other as well. But they'll just take a soma, what they call it in Brave New World at least. They just take a soma and their levels are then fine. They can, they're happy or whatever.
Yeah, but so just moving this a bit, what do you think is the current, our world, Earth 616 or whatever.
I see what you did there. Yeah. I think so. You've seen Midnight Gospel. I showed you Midnight Gospel,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So I think we are a fucking simulation. Each and every one of us together. We're just playing a game right now. That's it. It's pointless.
So
Life is nothing but just meaningless pursuit of happiness. Because it's all a fucking simulation in the end, which you only realize in the end when you have to get out of the simulation. You're like, oh shit, I'm a 6-year-old playing a game.
And people
Right now.
understood this fact, hundreds of years ago. So in the US Constitution, it's written over there that humans have these rights, that is freedom to, express your voice, vote, and all these things, and the pursuit of happiness. There is no mention of happiness. So you're not entitled to happiness, but you're
Yeah.
entitled to the pursuit of it.
Yeah, that's the American dream, right?
Yeah.
Like I think, fuck's sake, man. Yeah, I think that's the problem, and that's how they sell the American dream as well. It's the
But
pursuit that.
isn't this better from a society like a communist state, where people they are trying to reach that goal of complete happiness. Communism main goal is a society functions as a whole.
Yeah.
So wherever that has been tried, right? So for example, China is not a best example. I'll come to that later. But Russia, Soviet Union, all of these countries that have
Is
tried.
it because Amazon has a lot of stake in China? Oh, sorry. Let's go.
No, that's okay.
AWS.
Corporate.
Employee Protection
But
Act.
just coming back to the point, socialism and communism has sort of failed in many of these countries.
Yeah, but-
where it has been tried, and that's why I feel the capitalist society that gives you a motive to work hard, and I think that's the best motive humans can have.
No. So I think there's a shared reality all of us hold, that we're not just improving our country, but we're improving ourselves as individuals, but we're improving like the environment around us, where we live in, our residence, our place of work. We're trying to improve those spaces as well. These are pockets, and in that way you can think about communism working, because China doesn't really work on like a central authority. It's a lot better in terms of efficiency, and it's shown like
That's
the
where you
rate of
fall-
development. See, the rate of development which is very fast. No, so it's literally hinged on the fact there's incentive for companies to set up, to take up loans,
Yeah.
to set up like start industries.
Yeah.
All those are really really good like market.
So that's
incentives.
all the features of capitalism, right? You have a free market. That's the basic sort of building block for any society to work in that fashion. China embraced that in 1980s.
Yeah.
They allowed other countries to
I mean, they
set up
had to
things.
a large
Yeah, they
extent.
had to, yeah. And now they are seeing, they are expected to overcome US's GDP in the next 10 years.
Oh, but here's the kicker though. China is also investing. So what happens is China also packages their companies ka IPOs and their company ka stocks which are listed, like public companies. They package them and then sell them on the US stock trade through US markets, like through US like banks basically.
Yeah.
The thing is, the US banks also package them up and sell them as foreign or international goods, which is always looked at as really highly rated. They'll always be good. USA does no check. China has very little checks, like we saw. So these are literal like bubbles which have grown, and a lot of them have
Are
been
you
shorted.
pointing to a similar, 2007-8 crisis sort of a thing?
No, so this
That
already
was the housing market, but
yeah.
here it might be, forex market.
Yeah, so this is not just forex. This is like Chinese companies, industries,
Okay.
farming,
They're
farming
equity
companies.
sort
Exactly.
of a thing, right?
Even raw material, like farming and getting the raw material out to other businesses. Like those kind of companies also exist, which have taken a lot of US money. They have basically been listed on the New York Stock Exchange. That's the level of scam that's happening. So I think that's a good segue into understanding why I personally believe that the bubbles in finance are a lot worse, because there's no baseline product which they're actually selling. It's just shit packaged by other shit.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to say that, but like that's true. Like Tech has something that's innovative, a product which is, there's a utility to it. Like there's a utilitarian purpose to it. Either other business or other consumers will
So
use
don't
it.
you so do you feel that the financial market outside like the stock market, I would say, is that irrelevant to what happens in the human society?
I mean,
Because what
not
I
really.
feel is these big venture funds, right? All they do is invest via stock markets.
Yeah.
And channel that money to tech companies and startups who actually build those things.
Yeah, good. That's what because they don't want to hold like with a single company, right? Like think about
But
this way.
they are the ones
If
who are
you-
actually giving you money to build all of these things.
Exactly,
Right?
but here's the thing. Here's the kicker, right? The like we saw in the 2008 crisis, like you mentioned, the prices of those houses was the prices of the mortgage on which those houses were
Yeah.
being sold is a lot different.
Yeah.
Like there's a huge like scale difference basically, almost 100 200 times difference. So that's massive, and it's something that's crazy, right? In the same way with finance, what's happening is that their money doesn't come to tech developers directly. It goes to CEO, it goes to high level upper
Yeah.
management mostly. Bro, trickle down economics is a fucking myth. I think the only money you and I make from, like you make from, is probably AWS sales. I make from like in partners mainly,
Mhm.
right, and other clients directly who we're working with. So like I think it's pretty clear in that way that it's pretty fucked basically. That's China's fuck market. India market, I think that way India market is really good. Like think about
India market, I think it's going to rise, especially after COVID. That's also huge because India has been in the news for a lot of vaccines. So India is going to see a lot of medical investments. Recently, budget also they announced that they are investing a lot on the medical infrastructure. Then you have manufacturing. Now India is allowing different companies to set up their factories and all. So I think India and Bangladesh.
Yeah, even labor laws they sort of reduced. Maybe
Yeah.
4 labor law made it all a lot simpler basically.
Yeah,
the
and there's
processing.
this thing called Indian Bankruptcy Code. So IBC is
Yeah.
the name. So India was around 120 in the rankings. So 190 countries, India was 120th. So they recently reformed all of that, and now we are at 40 some position.
Wow, that's actually good.
So India is trying to attract these companies because bankruptcy is a very laborious process for a foreign
Yeah.
company.
Especially in India.
Yeah, especially in India because we have a lot of under the table shit going on. So
Let's not talk about that.
I think that's something that should be addressed. I would truly feel.
Yeah,
It's-
I'm kidding. Yeah, it's more of a.
Even if I get a if I get a fine someday, right? I'm caught driving my car and something, or I don't have my license over there, or the vehicle is not a rental vehicle, whatever that reason is. I don't ever think that I'm going to have a serious repercussion of this. I always think that I have the money and I can sort of bribe them and go away with it.
Yeah.
But this doesn't really happen in many of the outside countries. So, for example, US is very stringent in that they don't.
But there it's racism, right? They stop the black people.
Agreed.
don't stop the
Yeah,
white
that's a
people.
different problem to solve. But overall, if you see in Canada, in the Norwegian countries, their prisons are so.
Yeah, the prisons are also really good.
Yeah, I was checking about Norway. So Norway has really pristine prison complexes.
Yeah.
It's a real school sort of an ambience. It's not really that old infrastructure that we are used to for prisons. And they study over like they go over there. They can do a lot of things. They can read. They can do this and that, paint and all of those things. And they come out and the what do you say, fallback rate into actually doing crimes again is dramatically less.
It's prison re-entry.
Yeah.
It's called, yeah.
Yeah, so their prisons are really good at that. But yeah, they also have a lot of money from their citizens. So in the Norwegian countries, you have around
Taxes.
Taxes are very high. So you have 60-70% tax rates to the income. So that's very high. But yeah, they get a lot of these things free. So I think that's the way to go. That's also why socialism is something that I like. It's called democratic socialism,
Yeah.
where you are taking a lot of more money from the citizens, but doing a lot of public welfare work, so that will help
Yeah.
everyone.
Definitely. So I think like India at some moments in history, I always think about it that way. But in terms of specifically Norway and their prisons, right? I think it's called it's the alternative to what the US prison system is pretty much.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's more focused, and the reason is it's more focused on reform, right? Reform as one of its core principles that we want people to reform, to understand
Yeah.
why they commit crime.
They should somehow integrate back to the society.
Exactly, because we want society to be safer at large,
Yeah,
right?
they're not really in preferring death penalties. They
Exactly.
think everyone can
so
be.
what happens
reformed.
in US prisons is that you go to prison for a petty crime, but
Yeah.
for like 2 years you get bullied so hard into a hard life that outside you are more likely to commit more crimes and more dangerous crimes now, like smuggling or
Yeah.
murdering, first degree, whatever be it the case, manslaughter, and then just just go back to jail again for a longer period of time. So I think that, like you said, prison re-entry is quite like a literal problem in the US, and I think Norway is the right way. They have like TVs, you can bring your families. I think in countries where pot is legal, they also have a limited amount of pot they can smoke.
So just imagine in the US, right, coming to marijuana, there are some 16 states have it legal for recreational purpose.
Yeah.
Some 33, 34 states have it legal for medicinal use, and it's federally illegal.
Yeah.
So then fascinating thing about this is, so there are two neighbors, California and Oregon on the west
Yeah,
coast.
yeah, that's also.
Both are very very high at marijuana use, and they're really great industries over there.
Florida.
But they
as well.
can't actually transmit or take marijuana from one state to the other
Yeah,
because
it's
it's
federally illegal. Yeah, yeah.
And with weed, they take their prisoners for a lot of time. So their famous war on drugs that happened, because of that, the people who are taken up because of marijuana offenses,
Yeah.
they have to spend in jail 7 to 8 years.
So here's the kicker about that. In the past, during the war on drugs, like Nixon, Pinochet
Yeah.
time, right? Obviously Pinochet did a lot of killing in Peru, in Argentina, in
That's
Latin
more
America,
on
a
the
lot of
South
that
America
happened.
side, yeah, not.
And but in America, Nixon
yeah,
also arrested and put mandatory minimums, which were like minimum sentences
yeah,
that you people have to give, like a judge has to give even for petty crimes. So even if I'm carrying or like probably just smoking a
yeah,
joint in the US, like it'll probably land me up in 20 years in jail. And this was the problem with this was it was more proportional to your race. So if you're like
yeah.
an
So if
African
you're
American
an
or a
African
Latin
American,
American,
you're very likely to be
yeah. If you're
caught for-
Latino, if you're Indian, Asian, like you get fucked pretty bad. Like you get 20 years in jail and stuff. And the thing is, you're more likely to get arrested if you're that than like being cis
Yeah.
white male kind of
Yeah.
logic. And the problem of that is now and this is the ironic fucking shit which I feel now. Most of the like after legalization, even the states where it's been legalized, most of the people selling the pot now are white Americans.
Yeah, they are white Americans.
Because they have the
They're
wealth
people
to
who
start.
already have that wealth. So
yeah.
this
They
is
already-
also a proposal from the Biden administration. So they're
Yeah.
trying to get weed legal
Yeah.
somehow. So they have this proposal where companies who are started by black families and Latino families, they would be getting some sort of a rebate on their taxes, just so they have that head start, and they'll be also given capital. So
Yeah.
I think they're trying to acknowledge these gaps.
I think
in
yeah,
the race.
definitely. So Biden is pretty good that way.
His entire administration, the cabinet is completely multi-race. It's the most diverse cabinet.
But
that US has.
I heard some negative things as well about Biden. More specifically with the BLM protests and movement. What he did was after getting elected, inaugurated, after the results, all of it came out, and he was officially inaugurated as well. He for a month never contacted the BLM protesters, even though they were trying to contact him a lot. So he never got in touch with them. So I think
Okay, so I think that's where the problem lies, right? So what I feel is when you're in the middle of a pandemic and you have a lot of bigger, much more killing issues at hand, and when you've just become a president, you have to set a precedent for how the presidency will look, right? So how your subordinates will function and all of that. And I think there, keeping your priorities straight was a good decision, I feel. And it has shown results, right? So US has vaccinated like some 200 million people just in Biden's administration.
but like I'm sure they can handle more than just
Agreed,
the
but
pandemic.
yeah, that's what. So I think that's what happens, right? They would talk to it in background. So I was recently reading Barack Obama's biography, A Promised Land, and that's why I was getting these insights. So there are a lot of these things that they don't really publicize.
I have to ask one thing about what do you feel about Barack Obama. Do you think that US politics moved past racialized politics or moved into racialized politics after 2008?
Okay, I don't feel it has moved towards racial politics as such. I feel it has moved to partisan politics, where Democrats versus Republicans. That's a huge. People don't.
That's
say-
always been there, right?
But that has improved like dramatically
the
in the
polarization,
last 8
yeah,
the
because
polarization.
of Trump. But that's because of Trump. That's 2016. I'm
That's
saying
not
8
just
years
Trump.
back.
No. So what happened was
Even during Obama.
during Obama times, it was getting very difficult to pass laws that would actually have support of both Republicans and Democrats. So that's a problem that's there in US, and Obama really tried hard to solve it. That's what I read. That's what I understood. And but yeah, that's still there, and it's something that all
Yeah,
of them acknowledge.
there's something I'm forgetting the term for this, but in their Senate they can continue making speeches and stop the vote from ever happening.
Okay, so that's called a filibuster.
Filibuster, yeah, filibuster.
So
yeah.
what happens is, so in the U.S. Senate, this is just a rule of the
Senate, I
Senate,
know, I
not
know.
for the House of
Yeah.
Republicans. Sorry, representatives, not House of Republicans.
Right now, the Democrats got both houses. And the
Yeah. So
executive.
right now it's a very fascinating situation actually.
Yeah, for the
So-
left.
No. So what happens is they have 50 seats on each side. So 50 are with the Democrats, 50 are with Republicans.
Yeah,
This has happened, I think, twice in history,
yeah.
and the vice president gets the final
Vote,
vote.
yeah.
So
That's what.
But with filibuster, what happens is, so there's a debate going on, right?
Yeah.
What are the implications you should add to this bill and all of that, and to stop that discussion, you need to have 60 votes in the sort of the Senate.
Yeah, exactly. And you
And
only have
to
50.
pass the bill, you need 50 votes, but to stop that discussion, you need 60 votes. So that's where filibuster comes in, and it's stopped a lot of progress for US actually.
Yeah. Yeah. Inefficient politics. It's not like no surprise, I feel. I think even in countries like India, I think politics is just so messy and so slow to a large extent as well. I mean, if some parties come into power and they sort of monopolize a lot of institutions of power, the judiciary, executive, legislation, local communities, they have mobs of people helping them out. I think they're quite effective in terms of passing and implementing laws.
So I think,
Not necessarily good laws, it's very autocratic, I feel, in terms of control, but something that...
I think that happens when the party and the government are one at the same thing.
Yeah. Do you think people live in fear in today's world?
I
I definitely do.
I do. But not really a fear of some repercussions or something. I fear what's this all heading to. That's what I fear about. Where is this
No,
going?
but what do
in
you
the
think
next 10
people
years?
fear about? I mean, we'll get to what we fear about, but that's like a list of personal diagnosis. But what people really feel about this current government, our
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 government.
government.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel they started off really well.
What do you mean? Are you trying to get some money, bro? Are you trying to get funded? This is just
they started.
2014 was alright, guys.
Yeah, 2014 was all right. And then it all started with demonetization. So that's where I feel the line was drawn that this is a stupid
What
government.
about the Kashmir thing and...
No. So that's when I decided that I
Yeah.
don't have any hopes in any ways.
But 2014 was good.
Yeah, 2014 was good. Yeah. Yeah, that year I had just crossed 10th class, and life was good. Seriously.
Yeah.
So you were talking about kings earlier, right? And there are different kinds of kings in the modern world. So there are these 4 or 5 companies that rule a lot of land, not
Yeah.
physical land but virtual land.
Yeah, we get what you mean. Cloud.
Yeah, the cloud. So
And cloud, ironically, not coincidentally, rhymes with clout. If you get it.
Oh my god. No. Oh, cut this part.
we also have a rapper with us. So
That's
we also have a rapper with us. So this keeps on coming.
Yeah.
And so I was talking about these big tech companies, right? So they have a lot of power right now. They rule over so many countries essentially.
Yeah, I think rule is the right word.
And they're now they are showing true starting to show their true colors actually. So in Australia, what the Australian government did was announce that Google will have to pay the publishers for putting their news articles.
Yeah,
on its
news
feed.
article. That's really good.
Yeah, and that they were told that you'll have to pay for this. And what Google said was, we'll leave the country
Yeah.
as a Google search service,
Yeah.
YouTube, Gmail, everything if that happens.
Yeah, and they were like, oh shit.
Yeah, then shit went down. So they Australian government did have a discussion with Microsoft and Bing to be their
Yeah.
official.
But so
search
I don't
engine.
think so. It's recent in terms of showing the new these colors, these true colors that you talk about. I think it happened when they helped Iraq, they helped literal the Mossad fucking government, when they helped the cartels in Mexico, when they helped the North Korean fucking dictator while Trump was calling him a little man. I mean I think like they constantly have through few in the past also, like think about during Hitler, Coca-Cola or Pepsi or whatever, they're being sold with Mirinda.
Yeah.
That's a like that's how Mirinda came about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because Coke wasn't being sold as much in Germany, and they needed something which sold an orange citrusy drink was something that they could have sold a lot. So like yeah, throughout history, companies have only looked at profitability. So
Yeah.
big tech, that's why it doesn't really give a fuck. Like if Goldman Sachs gets a lot of fucking money from like Kim Jong Un, they will like best believe they will take it, bro. Like
And these companies have two sides actually. So now Google and other cloud providers.
I can say it. So like GCP, Azure, AWS, all of them. Yeah.
These different cloud providers now. So these different cloud providers now are in the oil business as well.
Oh, are you like? Is it for forecasting and
So
stuff?
these companies, they have, they claim 100% renewable energies, right? They run on 100%
Oh, yeah,
renewable.
yeah,
They
yeah,
have their
yeah.
own. The data centers are fully renewable. And
The
all those.
Google building and
Yeah. All of these things are fully. They claim all of that, but in one direction they are supporting all of this, but in the other direction now they have tools like in their cloud bucket as to services which will give oil companies the data using geothermal and all of these data to predict where oil would be the best.
I actually worked on. That's what I was talking about: forecasting
Yeah.
regions and time.
Geographies.
Yeah. So geospatial analysis is what we
Yeah.
call it. Yeah. That's something I'm currently part of as well.
Okay. So,
Yeah,
in your company?
No, as a personal pet project
Okay.
kind of thing. I researched a bit, so I don't think so. I'm into oil like forecasting as of now. I'm more into geospatial, like the spatial aspect and the time aspect of it. I'll probably get to more specific domains in a while, once I
Yeah,
get
but
more
this is a
expertise.
really it's a sort of a blinding thing, right? You have this company that's claiming, don't be evil. That's the Google mantra.
Yeah.
And they are now helping these oil companies who, for 30-40 years denied that their actions cause global warming.
Yeah.
And now we are giving them more places to drill.
Yeah, definitely. So I don't think so big tech is particularly good. I also don't think so. Like I think I was discussing this earlier with you, and you thought that somehow organically, because they aren't good, public will realize at some point.
What I feel
And
is
make
these
some
companies, they have an incentive to keep going,
Yeah.
right? And when these stories come out, they take very big actions to actually, cover all of this up.
Yeah, obviously.
They do a lot of investment. So in the long run, I do feel that these companies have a very, very good upside. So think about Google, right? That's one company I value a lot in my life. And that one reason for that is it has made me what I am. There are a lot of these curiosities that I have, and I'm sure everyone has. And Google just, gives me a medium to get to know more about all of them. So when I was a child, that was the best source of information that I had. So that's why I feel these companies are very, very helpful. YouTube is a very good platform for artists and all of this.
Yeah.
Gmail is a very good platform to actually share what you want. It's what gradually progressed into a social
Yeah.
network.
YouTube wasn't started by
Yeah,
Google,
I know.
right?
It was an acquisition. In
Yeah, so
2005.
like think about that way, like that's mad. Like they made so much money off YouTube, and I think also with respect to Google, I've personally shifted to DuckDuckGo now, and I think like sure as a kid Google gave you that, but I think DuckDuckGo is the way to go now. 'Cause
Okay,
it
so do you know what DuckDuckGo uses?
uses search. I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
not a CS
So
grad. I'm
DuckDuckGo is not a company that has its own search engine. It's
Yeah.
not indexing anything. It's only outsourcing all of those results to Bing.
Okay,
So Bing actually serves all of your DuckDuckGo requests.
but that's fine.
It's just they're removing all of that data in between.
That's good enough.
It's still, the control is still with Bing here.
But they don't have. But they can't filter in like the level, no. So that's fine. Bing is very random recipe.
What I'm saying is, as Google is now a monopoly, it has some 95%, 97% of the search traffic. There are going to be these countries and places where Google will not work. That will happen as a part of regulations. That's the future. That's not deniable. That will happen. Now there will be a place for a second search engine, that is Bing, obviously.
Okay.
So when this really happens,
Yahoo
Bing,
really did not work out.
yeah, Yahoo. Yahoo is a cute name, cute precursor to Google. So Yahoo, Google, that's irrelevant now.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Just like Orkut.
Oh, Orkut was also by Google actually.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's very.
It was a cute social network actually. That's what I remember.
I remember like people not using Orkut in public. So like my sister used to shut her door and didn't allow me to use the computer.
It was frowned upon.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, Orkut is something I do personally and I won't show to anyone.
Facebook came in India very late actually.
But I think Facebook is a lot more normalized. Like when I joined in, I think when I was 15, probably 14, I joined because of peer pressure mainly. Like a lot of my friends were on there and I was like, okay, shit, I need to be on there. I mean, the Facebook logic obviously worked on me, the business model.
Yeah, the network effect.
Yeah.
That's what they call it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but I think Facebook is now mostly relevant, right? It's somewhat in the background. No one really
I mean,
actively
but
uses it.
when you use Instagram or WhatsApp, you're technically just using Facebook.
Exactly. As a platform,
Snapchat
Facebook is
is-
dead, but as a company, Facebook is more than alive.
It's bigger than ever, I would
Yeah.
say.
It's still the smallest tech company in these big tech companies.
Yeah.
So the amount of impact that it has on society, I don't think it's
no, what do you
appropriately
mean, like
valued.
in terms of Instagram and all? I think it's pretty.
The total valuation of Facebook is around $900 billion.
Yeah, I mean, sure, that's because Apple and Amazon.
No,
and-
I truly feel they have a bigger social impact on our lives.
Yeah, they do.
They have a
do.
bigger
That's
grasp
what.
and they are undervalued in that sense.
Yeah.
But I think it's also because of these scandals, right? So if you think about Cambridge Analytica and
Yeah.
all that data leak that happened,
Yeah.
and really
You said data lake.
data leaks. So
Data leaks, yeah, leaks.
also, it's just sort of very, very difficult to grasp that a country's elections as big as US, as old as US, can be influenced by one company.
Yeah.
That's just too much power in their hands, right? So I don't feel that
Quite comfortable with that aspect. Obviously,
Yeah.
I think because that's almost very, very curbing dissent, reducing your free will,
yeah.
curbing on like whatever aspect of hope you have. Your deepest hopes and aspirations are taken away by the state, by a single company. In fact, in this time.
I think they were really good at actually banning Trump. That was a good decision, I feel.
I mean, it was a necessary decision.
It was a
at
necessary
some point.
decision, but that also shows the amount of power, right, that they have. So once Twitter banned Trump, none of his public statements ever came out. No one was actually peddling like these things, like the hate crimes and all of that after Trump was banned. So they do have a lot of power, I feel.
Yeah, and they used it in a good way, I feel, this time.
Yeah.
And I think, so thinking about that way, I think the world's also moving a lot towards artificial intelligence, machine learning,
Yeah.
etc., etc. So, and they're sort of integrating that into a lot of pre-existing features. They're creating new and unique features as well sometimes. To a large extent, what do you feel about how much control AI has and how do big companies react to it? So recently, just to give some color to this, recently I saw, like, I was reading this Azure article, and this is like literally at what point you start training for Azure. The first training is the kind of training about data privacy, about regulation, compliance.
Yeah.
It's about understanding that data needs to be used for good things, not for negative things. And like that's the first training, which I think is really, really good. So I think, like, I'm sure other companies are also implementing some form of it, but as the first literal training that's given to you in any domain that you join, from a technical or non-technical perspective, it'll always be that first training, which is amazing, I feel. Personally, what do you think about that?
I think privacy is a big factor.
Yeah.
But like if you think of an AI-enabled future, you'll have to trade privacy. I don't think both of them can exist together. So just
both what things like
like
AI and
AI helping us do these small things that we do in everyday life, and we actually having some privacy. So we always have this Google search in with us, right? It's always listening. It's always waiting for that "Hey Google" command.
Yeah.
But it has happened in the past where Google has recorded without the "Hey Google" word, and they have taken that information, and actually people have heard all of that, and they've made some company decisions based on that. So they have a lot of control on what data we are sharing with them all the time. And mobile device is the one that's going to be your assistant all the time, right?
Yeah.
You can't really connect people with I don't know, invisible things. It has to be some interface.
Yeah.
Unless Neuralink does something really well, but that's a different discussion. Until then, you'll have to use this, small clunky device to actually interact, and they always have all of your senses. They can see what you're seeing, they can hear what you're saying, and I don't know. In the future, they might even be able to, smell what we're going around. So that's a lot of data that they have, and if you are thinking that we should give them more power, then you'll have to trade privacy for that.
But what my point is, I'm okay, I think, to a large extent selling like my privacy to
Not-
companies to the extent where the company will keep it to them, that they won't utilize it for certain things. So I can, as long as I have control over how much data the company can also have to a large extent. For sure, it's a no-no if they sell ads, like they sell to ad companies and all, like they sell data through backdoors and all to ad companies. Definitely no-no. I think some controls that I also want enabled on top of that is things like sharing my tracking data, which like Google also has. So you can go up, you can disable all the tracking data, disable all the past archives, disable everything, whatever you searched for as well. And they disable, they also, sometimes it's also some cache data is stored. So you can have an automatic way to, sort of like just
Okay,
clean,
so
clean
just
that
to
cache
paint
away as
another
well,
picture, right?
Yeah.
Who is providing these options?
Google itself.
How do you ever verify that they're not doing it?
I mean, it's in their privacy policy.
Okay,
I've
so
read it
that's
fairly extensively. So, and they have to implement these things. And
I'm telling you what happens. So these companies, they have all of these different channels to store data, and what happens is these regulators who come in and check their code and their architecture, they're not really well versed with what actually goes on, right? It's very difficult for a group of 10-20 outside people to come in and actually verify what all is happening. It's very difficult for me to learn about my service, and it's been 1 year I'm working here. So it's a lot of work to actually understand these complex systems, and that's where they have their bread and butter, right? It's possible that you never know what's happening beneath the doors. So
I mean, so as long as there's good government regulation, I mean, states like New Zealand, states like Norway,
yeah,
those ones who can actually implement these things can actually hire good, effective, quality and quantity wise a lot of regulators who
exactly.
can verify the core architecture, these core pieces. I think it's quite important as well. Yeah, and I think with AI ethics, what do you think about like tech, which is something that the end goal of that tech is something that's a good goal, a societally good goal, is what I mean, not just for an individual sense.
Okay, so I think the maximum number of investment ever in technology, AI or whatever that is, it has to be somehow eradicating all the poverty in the world. That should be the prime focus, poverty and health. That's what I feel, because
But do you think it's feasible? Like how?
yeah,
how
I
do
do
you
feel it's feasible.
how?
It depends. That's what I'm talking about. It's not about actually trying to earn a profit from that. That's not my point. It's the job of the governments to actually fund these initiatives, make sure the people who are at the lowest level are somehow raising their levels.
Yeah, makes sense.
Because we already have a lot of these things, right? We have these computers, we have all of these things around us that help us do most of the things. We don't really need that much more investment on our level, but people who are 3 levels below us, they might really enjoy that experience.
Yeah, so like that's what I think. Tech something that's for social good, and some parts of big tech also probably want to do it from a PR perspective.
Yeah.
But also startups with disruptive tech is often aimed like something like Grab. If you know the
Yeah.
example of Grab being
Yeah.
extremely good for employment.
Yeah.
Even during times of COVID, that's why a lot of Southeast Asian
Even
countries
Grab,
were able
even
to
Uber, and all of
safeguard
these,
exactly, safeguard the economy. So like why I'm saying Grab is because Grab was the primary example where they like their workforce that they hired was majoritarily from like local communities.
Yeah.
So if like Grab is functioning in Malaysia, for example, it'll be Malay or it'll be Indian, like Indian individuals there.
So
If it's
just to give some context to people, Grab is a delivery startup.
it's cabs and like food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So sort of Ola
And Dunzo
Swiggy
and Dunzo as well,
So
yeah.
whatever they have, it's somewhat similar to Gojek. I think Gojek is in the similar lines.
Yeah.
So they have it in the Southeast Asian
Gojek
countries.
but I think Gojek is only limited to 2-wheelers, right? That you can rent and stuff.
No, Gojek is for these deliveries as well.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
Oh, I
yeah.
didn't know that. But
So-
I know Gojek is making a lot, but I think I'm sure like Grab is a lot more in different domains,
Grab
in
is, I
different
think,
markets.
it started off with the US market itself, right?
No, it's Southeast Asian. Only.
Southeast Asia.
Southeast
only,
Asian
okay.
market.
So Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand,
Yeah.
all of these
Yeah,
countries.
Singapore.
So India as well as Southeast Asia, this is the major place of seeing two-wheeler vehicles actually.
Yeah.
So this concentration is there, and in the US or in other places you don't see these many two-wheelers.
Yeah.
People prefer cars, and
Gojek made a lot of money
yeah,
in Southeast Asia from that.
yeah,
Yeah, because I think to a large extent, if you remember that one episode from Top Gear, back when
I haven't watched Top
okay,
Gear.
so
You
this
can go
is if any of the audience members know, there's this one episode where basically James, Jeremy, and whatever Richard, they basically go to Vietnam, and they can only ride two-wheelers because cars are way too expensive
Yeah.
to buy. They have a lakh or something, and they can't purchase a car. They have a couple of lakhs, can't purchase a car, have to buy a two-wheeler.
Yeah.
That to a used second-hand two-wheeler which
Yeah.
they repair. So yeah, I think it just shows how some societies like that become fairly unequal as well.
Yeah.
Things like so I think I'm honestly quite privileged to be born in India when I think about those things.
Even African countries, right? So the situations over there is really awful. So I think I'm really grateful that I was born in a country like India, which is still in the developing phase. But yeah, it's not that. And I do feel that sometimes India really steps up towards our neighbors. You know, we've provided a lot of funding to Bhutan, Nepal, all of these
Yeah.
countries. So they
To the Dalai Lama, to
Yeah.
a religion.
Yeah, to a religion, we've given them our home. I recently visited the Key
Dharamshala?
Monastery. The Key Monastery, which is the most sort of
Wait,
revered.
are you talking about Dharamshala or
No,
is
no,
it?
Spiti Valley.
Oh, Spiti Valley.
Yeah,
okay.
so that's where Dalai Lama is also sort of his residence is there in
Yeah.
Key Monastery, and it's a very beautiful place. It's very difficult to reach there. You have to have cars and you have to drive a lot of. in a lot of
Did you get to
very-
meet the Dalai Lama?
No, I
or
did not get to meet him. I saw him
from afar.
Yeah, so
That's good enough, I think.
there was this prayer going on in the morning,
Yeah.
and that day was completely filled with the prayer. So I sat outside the temple and I was looking. So I
Yeah.
could see him.
That's really great. That's honestly really, really beautiful. And yeah, so what do you feel about, okay, so I'm trying to like understand what do you feel about existence, and something we discussed earlier
Mhm.
probably about the fact that if given a choice, would you prefer a short, heavy, a lot of enjoyment in life, or would you prefer something as a longer but more stable life?
I would prefer that first option any day.
Yeah. Are you
Uh,
a smoker? Are you an active smoker?
Let's not divulge details about our personal lives.
No, but I always get that like the former choice chosen by like chain smokers. So like
But so it's also about once I die, right? I don't really have that thought in my head what happens after that. So if I have 50 years or 60 years of my life and I really enjoy every day or every week of that.
So I'm not about 50, 60. I'm talking about like 35, 40.
Okay,
maybe.
that's too low. That's too
That's
low. Yeah, I want to live till 50.
50. Okay, I think that's
the
fair.
magic number that I'm looking for.
For me, it's I think 60, 70 probably, but yeah, 50 is a good enough number. I honestly thought 30, 40 because yeah, I think because a lot of people always feel, and this is also something that's true of. I mean, obviously, Club 27 you know of, I'm sure of it. And
Yeah.
then there's recently it's Club 23, 24, or 21 even.
20, like just to give some context, 27 Club is a sort of a informal list of artists who've died at the age of 27.
Yeah, through mysterious death. It's not a natural death. Basically,
Yeah.
that's the logic. It's like ODs.
So people don't die of natural deaths at the age of 27, right?
I think they can. Like
It's usually 27
it's
is
rare.
too early.
It's rare. It's
yeah.
rare, but it can happen.
So
is
it's
what I mean.
rare in a big, it would be much rare in just artists, right? So
Yeah.
it's very rare. So yeah, that club has all these people who've died at the age of 27. Some notable names, Vinamra, would you care?
I think Nirvana is one, right? Like
Uh-huh.
uh,
Yeah.
Not sure of a lot of them.
So, but yeah, when you
I think I know more Club 21s. Like, I'm not saying it hints at anything or it's symbolic of anything. I think it is because they've died recently. I think like Mac Miller or Triple X.
Mhm.
Who's the guy from J something?
Hmm?
Who's the J? The rapper whose name starts with J.
No, Juice WRLD.
Juice WRLD, yeah. So all these people, I feel,
yeah,
die in 21. I don't know. It's just
21 is too early, man. You don't.
sketch.
You haven't even discovered yourself till 21.
Yeah.
You don't really know who you are.
Like, yeah, obviously. Triple X died of. He was shot outside a
Okay.
bike store. So he
In his
bought a.
car.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
wasn't sitting inside his car, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Like a superbike store was there outside.
Yeah.
And he was in his car and someone just came and shot him. And yeah, Juice WRLD died when he landed and he was, I think, taking another connecting flight. He got a seizure and a couple of seizures. Probably because he done too much, you know.
Park and Biggie.
Yeah, Park, Biggie, yeah, that's obviously old school stuff. I'm not about like more Club 21 people.
Club 21.
Oh yeah, 27 is Park, yeah, that's
25 is Park, right?
25?
25. Both of them died at 25.
Oh fuck, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah, like overall the ages have gone down. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. So we can wrap this up here. Thank you, Vinamra, for joining in.
Yeah, I really had a
Yes.
glad time. I would love to be here again.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
I feel we have so much more to talk about.
Yeah, we have so much more to
Which
talk
we probably will right after this podcast. Alright, everyone, please like, subscribe, and
about. And
yeah.
keep enjoying.
Yeah.
Bye.